The millionaire's son was blind, until a little girl brought out something in his eyes that no one saw. For years, people only knew Ethan Kingsley as the boy who had everything money could buy but nothing that really mattered. His father, Richard Kingsley, was a man of power and status, a billionaire whose name echoed through the halls of corporations and luxury estates. Yet for all the empire he built, there was one thing he couldn't control: the darkness that took his son's sight when Ethan was only 8 years old. A rare degenerative condition had stolen Ethan's vision, leaving him trapped in a world of endless night. As Ethan grew, so did the walls around his heart. The world he couldn't see no longer interested him. People spoke to him with pity, and his father spoke to him with pressure, pushing him to study, to succeed, to be a Kingsley. But Ethan no longer cared about business or inheritance. He spent his days listening to music, feeling the sun on his face, and imagining the things he could no longer witness. His father, consumed by guilt and frustration, poured millions into research, hoping one day his son would see again. Yet, as the years passed, Ethan's hope faded like the last light of a dying day. Then, one quiet afternoon, something unexpected happened. The Kingsley estate had long been a fortress: tall gates, cameras, guards, and miles of manicured gardens. But just beyond its edges, in a small neighborhood that time seemed to forget, lived a little girl named Lily. She was 9, full of curiosity and mischief, always wandering where she shouldn't. Her mother worked as a gardener at the estate, tending to the roses that lined the driveway. Lily often waited in the car, drawing pictures or humming songs, until one day, she slipped out to explore. That's when she met him. Ethan was sitting under an old oak tree near the garden, a book open on his lap that he couldn't read. He liked the sound of the wind through the leaves; it made him feel less alone. He didn't hear Lily approach until she spoke, her voice light and full of wonder. "Why are you sitting by yourself?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Because I like the quiet." "But it's not quiet," she said, tilting her head. "The wind is singing. The birds are talking. Even the flowers make sounds if you listen close." Her words caught him off guard. He turned slightly toward her voice. "You think flowers talk?" "Of course," she said confidently. "They whisper to each other when no one's watching. My mom says plants grow better when you talk to them. Maybe they just like having friends." He laughed softly, the first genuine laugh in a long time. "Then maybe I should try talking to them too." From that moment, an unlikely friendship began. Every day, when her mother came to work, Lily would sneak over to find Ethan. She'd describe everything she saw: the colors of the sky, the patterns of butterflies, the way sunlight made the roses sparkle. She didn't treat him like he was broken, she treated him like he was whole. She made him see the world again, not with his eyes but through her words. "Today the garden looks like a rainbow," she told him once. "Red roses, yellow tulips, purple lilacs, all standing tall like they're showing off." "And what do they say to you today?" he asked with a smile. "They say, wake up, sleepyhead. The world's too pretty to miss." Her imagination painted pictures brighter than any sight could. Slowly, Ethan began to change. He started waking up early, waiting by the oak tree. He learned to recognize her footsteps, her laughter, the way her breath quickened when she ran. She became the light in his darkness. But not everyone approved. Richard Kingsley didn't like the idea of his son spending time with a gardener's daughter. "Ethan," he said one evening, "you don't need distractions. You have therapies, programs, responsibilities. You're 22 now. You need to focus on your future." "My future," Ethan said quietly. "You mean your company." "I mean your life," his father replied, his tone hardening. "That girl doesn't belong here. She's my friend," Ethan snapped, his voice shaking. "The only one who doesn't treat me like a patient or a failure." Richard paused, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I just want what's best for you." "Then stop trying to control me," Ethan said. "Let me live." For the first time, Richard had no words. Weeks passed, and Ethan's bond with Lily deepened. She began teaching him how to paint by touch, mixing colors while she described them. "This one feels warm," she'd say, guiding his hand through red paint. "And this one feels like the wind, blue." Together, They created abstract shapes that looked chaotic but were full of emotion. One day, while painting, Lily asked softly, "Do you ever wish you could see me?" He smiled. "Every day." "Then maybe you can," she whispered. "Maybe not with your eyes, but with your heart." Her innocence held a wisdom that stunned him. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside, a faint spark of hope. Then came the storm that changed everything. One afternoon, while Lily and her mother were at the estate, a sudden thunderstorm rolled in. Lightning struck the power lines, setting part of the garden shed on fire. Chaos erupted. Workers ran, alarms blared, smoke filled the air. Amid the confusion, Lily's mother screamed her daughter's name. Lily had run back into the shed to save a small stray puppy she'd been hiding there for weeks. The fire spread fast. Without thinking, Ethan, guided only by her cries, ran into the smoke. His father shouted for him to stop, but Ethan didn't listen. He followed the sound, the trembling voice calling, "Help! Over here!" Through the darkness and heat, Ethan found her. His hands, burned and shaking, grabbed hers. "Hold on, Lily," he yelled. He wrapped his arms around her and the puppy, feeling his way toward the door. He couldn't see the flames, but he could feel their breath on his skin. Just when it seemed impossible, a burst of wind opened the door, and they stumbled out into the rain. The firemen arrived moments later. Ethan collapsed to the ground, coughing, clutching Lily close. His father ran to him, kneeling beside them, tears in his eyes. When Ethan opened his eyes again, he was in a hospital bed. His head throbbed, his arms bandaged. But something felt different. The world wasn't black anymore, it was blurry, filled with faint shapes and colors. He blinked, disbelieving. "Dad," he whispered. Richard rushed to his side. "I'm here, son." Ethan blinked again, focusing. He could make out his father's face, tears streaming down his cheeks. Light, actual light, was breaking through. The doctors were astonished. The heat and trauma had somehow triggered dormant optical nerves, something no surgery had achieved. His vision wasn't perfect, but it was real. He could see. When Lily came to visit, her arm in a sling, Ethan stared at her in awe. Her hair was messy, her clothes smudged, but her smile lit the room. "So this is you," he whispered, his voice trembling. She grinned. Disappointed, he laughed, tears falling freely. "Not even a little." His father watched from the doorway, overcome with emotion. For years, he'd tried to buy his son's cure. But it wasn't money that restored Ethan's sight, it was love, innocence, and a little girl who saw beauty where others saw brokenness. Months later, the story spread everywhere. Reporters called it a miracle. Scientists studied it, philanthropists praised it, and Richard Kingsley built a children's foundation in Lily's name, dedicated to helping kids with visual impairments. But for Ethan, the greatest miracle wasn't what he gained, it was what he learned. He learned that sometimes the smallest souls hold the greatest light. That the world's richest man can be poor in love, and the poorest child can give more than gold. Years later, when Lily turned 18, she visited Ethan again. By then, he was teaching art to children who couldn't see, helping them find their own color through imagination. "You kept painting?" she asked, smiling. "Always," he said. "You showed me how." As they stood together in front of a canvas, sunlight streaming through the window, Ethan took her hand and whispered, "You made me see the world again, Lily. Not just with my eyes, but with my heart." She looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. "Then never stop looking." And he never did, because sometimes, the greatest miracles aren't found in medicine or money, but in the pure, unshakable light of a child's heart. And for Ethan Kingsley, that light would never fade again.